As of recent, I've begun a mini-series in which I'd rank every major roller coaster manufacturer there is. Now that that's finished, I thought I'd branch off of it with videos about the worst coasters from each manufacturer. Just a quick note though, this was not my original idea. Airtime Thrills did this first and I'd highly recommend checking out his video. A link to his channel will be down in the description. This video will highlight the best coasters from half of the manufacturers in this series, aka numbers 24 to 13. Now I obviously haven't ridden every roller coaster from every manufacturer out there, so I'll just be taking my best guess as to what looks like the worst from each company. Also, in the past couple videos where I discussed the best coasters from each manufacturer, I went over what my personal favorite was and what I thought was the best overall. For this video, I will not be picking personal least favorites because I don't dislike many coasters at all. Plus, it's just a terrible way of looking at things, and I always try to look at the good in each coaster I ride. Before we dive in, I'd like to ask if you guys could subscribe to the channel. The support lately has been amazing, so let's keep that going. With that all being said, here are the worst roller coasters from each major manufacturer. First up is Skyline Attractions, who have only built 2 roller coasters, but out of the 2, Harley Quinn Crazy Coaster at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is clearly the worst. Both honestly suck, but I think Harley Quinn might just be one of the worst coasters in the world. You've got bulky restraints, a boring layout, and a lot of roughness. There's literally nothing to like about this ride. Plus, it's always closed. Next up is E&F Myler, who primarily build kiddie coasters. See, this one's tough. I'm trying to stay away from putting kids' rides on this list since they were meant for a different audience, but I might have to make an exception here. Zoom at Oaks Park in Portland, Oregon is one of the worst kiddie coasters I've ever ridden, and no other E&F coaster I've experienced has been so jarring. For that reason, I'll say Zoom is the worst, but I'm clueless to which other kiddie coasters outside of America run horribly. Golden Horse is up next, and this one may appear to be super obvious on the surface, but it really isn't in my opinion. Everyone knows that this is the knockoff manufacturer, and everyone knows that they build their own SLCs. Those two things put together may not sound like a very good combination, and I guess it really isn't, but their custom suspended looping coasters don't actually look too bad. They may still be a little rough in some sections, but the layouts are unique and they seem to track better than many of the Vekoma versions. My real answer to worst Golden Horse coaster may actually not be completely accurate, but I'm still going to go with Forest Flying Mouse at Guangzhou Zoological Garden in China. This is one of their many janky jungle mouse clones, and while it may not be in as bad of condition as some of the others, the trains look scary as hell, so it's my pick for worst Golden Horse coaster. Din Corporation only has 4 roller coasters in operation, and the ones left appear to be pretty fun rides in all honesty. Those 4 roller coasters are Predator at Six Flags Darien Lake, Thunder Run at Kentucky Kingdom, Timberwolf at Worlds of Fun, and Wolverine Wildcat at Michigan's Adventure. In my last video, I talked about the best coasters from each manufacturer and mentioned that Timberwolf and Thunder Run look to be the company's 2 best coasters, so those definitely aren't it. Really, it's just between Predator and Wolverine Wildcat, which both have very mixed reputations. My honest opinion is that Predator looks slightly worse even if the layout is solid. It appears to run pretty rough, and most can agree on that, but I don't know for sure because I have never ridden it. Nonetheless, the GCI Titan track it's receiving this year will hopefully be enough to boost it over Wolverine Wildcat, but for now, Predator is my choice for worst Din Corp coaster. Alright, so next up on our list is Togo, who have built a couple of nasty looking rides. With that said, the few large-scale Togo coasters left in operation are the ones that do appear to be pretty fun rides. I know most people will say that the Big Apple coaster in Las Vegas is very obviously the worst operating Togo coaster, but I personally didn't find it to be that bad at all. This puts me in a tough place because their bigger rides in Japan look very fun as well. The smaller ones, however, I'm not too sure, so my pick is going to be Bobster at Shirakaba Resort Familyland in Japan. It looks like a genuinely awful family coaster with no redeeming qualities, and that could explain why it's the only Togo Bobster model left in operation. Giovanola have only ever built 3 to 4 roller coasters, and the only one I've personally been on is Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain. That coaster is one of my least favorites I've ever ridden, and let me explain why I also think it's the worst from the company's history. If you compare it to the 2 in South Africa, they both very obviously look better. Also, Titan at Six Flags Over Texas is a replica of Goliath, but with an additional upwards helix that looks like the best part of the ride. Because of that, I personally think it's a no-brainer. If any of you have ridden Tower of Terror at Gold Reef City though, definitely leave a comment and let me know what you thought of it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, so I'd be curious to see how it would compare to Goliath. Next up is Zamperla, who have a couple of pretty bad coasters in their portfolio. I know most will immediately answer with the Valere model, and while I didn't hate Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland, I'd still have to agree. These coasters are so uncomfortable to ride. It's like you're trapped in a small cage and are constantly being jerked left to right. This is kind of an impulsive choice because the second I thought of it was the second I assumed it was the worst, but I'm not so sure, so let me know down in the comments if you can think of any others that could be contenders. I'm not 100% sure about this next one, but Mauer Rides' Gotham City Gauntlet Escape from Arkham Asylum at Six Flags New England is considered by many to be a pretty awful wild mouse coaster. The reason I'm skeptical to call this the absolute worst coaster by Mauer Rides is because at the end of the day, it is just a wild mouse. That said, I'm struggling to find another coaster that could fill in its spot. Mauer is a fairly respected coaster manufacturer who don't really build bad roller coasters. Their family spinners are fun, and their larger X-Car and Sky Loops are also fun, so again, I'm just going to settle on Gotham City Gauntlet for the time being. Zero Rides is similar to Mauer in a way where they don't have many coasters that people are quick to trash on. I personally am not a big fan of Jaguar at Knott's Berry Farm, which leads me to believe that one of the Tivoli coasters could be their worst. Because there are so many of them, like literally 110 of them have been built, I'm just going to leave it up to you guys. The Zero Tivoli model is definitely the worst of their coasters, but the specific choice is on you. These rides are just boring and do literally nothing, even if they are quite a bit large. Anyways, now that that's settled, let's continue with PTC. Philadelphia toboggan coasters have built quite a lot of old woodies, and even if some of them are rougher than others, they still are pretty respected rides. When writing the script to this video, I struggled to pinpoint what PTC coaster is generally hated amongst enthusiasts, and then I thought of one that is exactly that. Wildcat at Lake Compounds was a ride that I personally didn't hate, but I also recognize that my tolerance for roughness is higher than others. It doesn't really give any airtime, and the laterals are pretty uncomfortable, so putting these couple of factors together makes for a very questionable ride. I'm also aware that PTC has built Woodstock Express clones and Sea Dragon at Columbus Zoo, but again, those are smaller rides that were built to accommodate a different audience. Besides, those are fun family coasters that don't deserve any of the hate, so yeah, I'm gonna stick to Wildcat for worst PTC. The defunct company of Schwarzkopf have mostly built fun, intense, looping coasters, so I couldn't really put any of their thrill rides on here. The one coaster they did build that come to mind as flat out boring and meh was the old Wildcat model. Many of these were built back in the day, and some like the one at Washington State Fair is actually seen as a pretty fun ride. In particular, I'm looking at the 54-meter Wildcat model, which can be found at Adventure Park USA in Maryland, Sandspit Beach in Canada, and Central Park in Kazakhstan actually. These still look like decent rides, but they don't do much and just serve as rare coaster credits. Our last manufacturer of the video is Chance Morgan. If this were just Morgan's work, the answer would clearly be the Santa Monica Piers West coaster, but including Chance rides, the answer is easily their toboggan coasters. There used to be a ton of these out there, but today only one of them remains in operation with another in the process of relocation. These two are Swiss Toboggan at Little America in Wisconsin and an unnamed clone at Parque dos Elefantes in Brazil. While these are extremely rare, they look very boring and uncomfortable, much like the Wildcat clones that I mentioned earlier. I'd still like to get on the one in Wisconsin someday before it's too late, but they still look like brutally uncomfortable and claustrophobic rides. I say this because you are literally trapped in a cage as you traverse an indoor vertical lift hill, quintuple helix around said lift hill, and tiny bunny hops that can slam your head against the ceiling of the cage restraint. I can't wait to experience this thing, it's gonna be terrible. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video in which I've covered the worst roller coasters from each major coaster manufacturer. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.